Woo, finally Friday. Welcome to Frontline. I'm almost over this sickness. But at 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, we'll be giving some news from North Carolina, where another planned terror attack, this one from New Year's Eve, was foiled by the FBI.
He has been planning this attack for about a year, but he's been planning an attack for far longer than that. He was planning this attack in support of ISIS, and we have charged him with attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization.
Now, the ISIS-inspired suspect, ironically named Christian Servient, is an American citizen that has been on the FBI's radar for years for ISIS-related affiliations. They did nothing. Plus, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says he's open to talk with U.S. on drug trafficking and oil. I guess he got tired of the country's main revenue source just getting blown up in open waters. And Mamdani added again, the New York City mayor appointing Ali Namjamini or something to the, not a normal name, to his advisory committee on the judiciary. Now, Namjini will counsel Mamdani on judicial candidates for the city's courts that will have an impact on bail reform, housing, and other issues. Now, Namji saying fair and equitable legal system is determined by judges. More on Mamdani Clown Show coming up later. But first, don't let this fraud scandal in Minneapolis and all these other places distract you from other very important issues that the GOP is trying to sweep under the rug. Let's do this. The media is a lot like a 9-year-old with ADD after drinking a white Monster energy drink. It tends to just talk about the here and now, forgetting what is also simultaneously very important, but just not as sexy as a story. Okay, sometimes even intentionally telling you to focus on something else.
News coverage doesn't happen in a vacuum. Reporters don't ask questions for no good reason. Speculation doesn't happen in a vacuum. So let's hope real investigating and real research and real reporting can lead us out of this. That phrase, do your own research, it's popping up a lot in conversations about coronavirus and about COVID vaccines. Doing your own research, it seems so innocent, but it can have serious consequences.
And that is why a lot of these government bureaucrats and elected officials and legacy media, they get away with the things they do because they blow past a big story and they never come back to it, even though it's still important. So while a bunch of Republicans, let's be serious here. A bunch of Republicans are breathing a huge sigh of relief for Nick Shirley right now because he changed the news cycle. Because I feel this is a perfect time to remind you that there is, in fact, a budget due in 28 days. And if they don't do it, we're going to have another government shutdown. And Republicans are refusing to blow up the filibuster.
This effort to change the Senate rules, legislative filibuster, I think, will destroy America over time.
You want to know why? I've explained this before, but essentially the filibuster is the one mechanism that the uniparty, like people like him, they have to not do anything, despite the will of the people. You see, if we do away with the filibuster, Republicans can essentially govern with a simple majority, not needing 60 votes in the Senate to move budgetary and most other stuff forward. And then there would be no excuse to not run the MAGA agenda. A lot of Republicans don't want that, so they just hide behind the filibuster as, oh, that's the reason we can't make all these radical changes, because we can't get the votes. Because in Washington, D.C., the status quo is the name of the game, which is exactly what we were promised would not happen, by the way. And that's why 77 million people came out to vote for the Trump agenda. Now, Democrats don't think that far ahead. They're not very strategic about this type of thing. So they're going to just go ahead and blow the filibuster as soon as they get back in power anyway. Mark my words. Their voters are a bunch of ideologues. They'll just vote for the party no matter what they do or don't do. Republican voters, though, we're more free thinkers, which is why we are so angry with the lack of action right now. You and I are looking around with almost 100% certainty that the Democrats are just going to blow this filibuster and run their agenda when they get back in. They're already, look, Democrats already got away and did away with the nuclear option with under Harry Reid to blow up the judicial confirmation process. They took it from 60 down to 51. I mean, it backfired, and we got 3 Supreme Court justices in Trump's first term. But what's to stop them from blowing the filibuster when they get back in? They already said they're going to do it. But instead of doing that, did you know right now, there is a bill as part of this minibus. This is for the HHS and labor committees that appears more than likely to pass. $5.6 billion more dollars to help refugees come to this country. I mean, guys, I could think of 9 billion reasons right now, just in Minnesota, not to vote for that. But what's the plan in 28 days when Democrats are like, hey, we're not going to vote for anything unless it's got Obamacare subsidies in it? We're going to be at a total impasse. Like, Obamacare, after 15 years. For most Republicans, it's just got to be a non-starter. You guys have been promising to abolish this for 15 years, but Republicans aren't even threatening to blow up the filibuster over that, even after we found massive fraud in the Obamacare and Medicaid system, which is mighty bold because they came out and they basically said they were going to address fraud.
Accountability is coming.
And there's going to have to be appropriate accountability. I mean, accountability is key here. It's important because if you're going to restore the people's faith in the justice system, you have to show them that there are serious consequences.
But to date, after all this work from Elon Musk and all those other kids sleeping on the floor, $250 billion they found in fraud, waste, and abuse. They still have only passed a $9 billion rescission package in Congress, which doesn't even offset what the Somalis sent back to Mogadishu. Congress to date has trimmed less than 5% of the proven documented fraud that was put right in front of their face by Elon Musk. That was before any of the Somali stuff came to light, by the way. And with unilateral Republican control, the same Republicans that are about to enter a 10-month push to ask for our money, our support, and our votes again. My question again to any Republican right now is why? Again, this level of failure is something people forget about because the media wants you to forget about it. I'm not going to let you forget, but Republican members are just counting on us and others just moving on with the news cycle. And also, this was the biggest story 2 weeks ago, by the way, the Epstein files. The DOJ has not released all the Epstein files, which is a violation of the law. I have seen no motions for contempt in Congress. Like, people should go to jail for this. Because if I complied with tax laws the way the DOJ is complying with the Epstein disclosure law, heavily redacted and 10 days late, I'd be fined or probably go to jail. But the people who are supposed to be enforcing the laws, they're just getting a pass on this one. People say, oh, Carl, what can we do about it? Yeah. Look, my job is to hold people accountable. Okay, I come on here and talk about this and rub it in people's faces every night. I do it on social media. But here's what you can do. And this is bold. And it's totally legal, by the way. You get a W-2, right? Go to your HR department on Monday and tell them that you don't want to withhold any federal taxes from your payroll. Now, look, put those in a separate account because you're still going to probably have to pay them at the end of the year, unless Trump takes my idea and pardons every citizen for not paying taxes in 2026. But you would break the trend of not giving the government an interest-free loan on your income for an entire year. You can just pay it at the end of the year when you do your taxes in April of 27. A few million productive citizens do that. I bet the Treasury starts panicking. Bet we get their attention real quick. Folks, just so you know, I don't just come on here also and talk about this. When I get done with this show for an hour on the train and when I get home, I'm taking clips of what we talked about and showing them your sentiment of the tweets and things that you send me. And I send them directly to congressmen and senators and governors and sometimes even the president's staff so they know how we feel. I feel like a conduit of you. And the more you folks share this stuff, go on social media and follow me on Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever it's called, and share this stuff. Force them to listen. Because I'm done supporting empty promises. Let these people who have worked in D.C. for decades know that it's time to do real stuff, like repeal the 16th Amendment. I mean, just put it up for a vote. Why not? Get people on the record. Who's for and against taxing you? Just start doing stuff. Because this last year has been Congress's least effective year in my lifetime. Legendary musician and outdoorsman Ted Nugent. Sir, I'm sure you're just as fed up with the government as I am.
You know, Carl, I bring you much love from the not-so-mean streets of America. When people know that you and I know each other and we share backstrap bow hunting, spirit of the wild, great outdoors, healing powers of nature, dreams together, they all tell me to tell you they love you because you're what the founding fathers wanted all Americans to be suspicious of all authority, to fight like the third monkey trying to get on the ark, and demand accountability, which doesn't exist. I wrote a text to Kristi Noem, who I love, and to Kash Patel, who I love, and I love a lot, but I manage my love. And I said, we're not going to be happy till you run out of rope in Minnesota. You've seen the crimes. You've got the evidence. Would you please snap some handcuffs on all these criminals running amok, burning our hard-earned tax dollars? So, Carl, what you do is not just about voicing it and mouthing off. We, the people, experimenting in self-government isn't just about squawking. I go right to the source. My Governor Abbott knows what I demand. In Michigan, Governor Whitmer, she knows what I demand. Now, I know there's resistance, there's status quo, denial, but you're really making a difference. But I beseech everyone watching Uncle Ted and Carl Higbie right now, if you're not registered to vote and you don't vote for the effort, the risks, and the sacrifice to be in the asset column, if you don't put pressure on your mayor, your chief of police, your state trooper commander, and your sheriff, and your governor, if you're not putting pressure on them, they're laughing at you. So, Carl, you're on track, and there is movement.
You know what, Ted? It's another thing, and I, you know, all your work with Hunter Nation, getting all those hunters registered to vote, that was huge. I run into this all the time. People are like, well, what do I do? Like, we just need somebody to run that can win. I'm like, you do it. Be the person you're waiting for.
You know, Carl, they always come up and go, thanks, Uncle Ted, for standing up for my Second Amendment rights. Thanks for standing up for the Constitution and the good over evil and self-defense. We're glad you have a voice. I don't have a voice. I said, stop. You don't have a voice because you haven't called anybody. You haven't texted anybody. You haven't written a letter. I got buddies that are hammering their governors and their mayor and their school board. And we've seen progress. We've actually seen upgrade in those bureaucracies. Fedzilla is completely out of control. If we found trillions of dollars in wasted and fraudulent, illegal tax abuse, then give us our damn money back. I don't see why, in a real accountability, just registering typical mathematics, we shouldn't have to pay taxes for the next 10 years because they found trillions that have been wasted and fraudulently abused. Start using those for the constitutionally authorized responsibilities of the government. Because right now it doesn't exist. But, Carl, your voice is being heard. My voice is being heard. There is activism, increase, and upgrade going on. So everybody watching, if you're not putting pressure on your elected employees, they're laughing at you. Get cracking.
Well, the other thing, you just mentioned Second Amendment, which is the amendment that makes all this important, which is why Great Britain is getting thrown in jail for speech violations and we're not. But just before we came on air tonight, major win in California, believe it or not. California ban on open carry is ruled unconstitutional by the Ninth Circuit Court. Now, look, I live in the Socialist Republic of Connecticut, which is the Constitution state, and under Article 1, Section 15 of the Connecticut Constitution, it says that I can open carry, and they still took it away. So, Ned Lamont, I'm coming for you on this one.
Well, everybody should be a member of the Gun Owners of America. Everybody who cares about good over evil should be a member of the new improved National Rifle Association. You should be a member and a participant in your state's Second Amendment organization, like here in Texas. There's great organizations out there that really are holding the line, but we don't need to hold the line. Everybody read my lips. I have a First Amendment without paperwork, without authorization from anybody, without a license, without anything, wherever I may roam and open my mouth. I also have a Second Amendment to keep and bear arms, that is, carry a gun while I'm on planet Earth, while I'm alive, without anyone's authorization, without any paperwork, and without any permit. Anybody wants to debate that, call 1-800-NUMBNUT, and I'll have Michael Moore explain it to you.
Ted, it's never a dull moment with you, sir. Always a pleasure. Happy hunting.
All right, Godspeed. Happy 2026, the best year of my life, the worst for my enemies.
And I'm going to get that 7-year-old buck that's been eluding me for 4 years.
Whack 'em and stack 'em.
Yep, I'm going to do it. All right, coming up, the Democrat Socialist Mayor of New York City promising freebies to all, pushing to tax the rich. He brought his wife and her designer boots to stand next to him while he's getting sworn in under that banner. More on that later in the show. But more Somali fraud schemes being uncovered. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. Across the country now, we got the latest deets out of Ohio's daycare centers next.
the 47th President of the United States of America.
And, you know, I wouldn't say Fox has been exactly perfect. Fox has been a big difference of Fox between now and what it was 4 years ago, as you know. But we have others that come along, and they're doing well, and Newsmax has been really good, and, you know, others are coming along, and people are seeing that they're watching these conservative networks.
President Trump is right. That's why millions of Americans are tuning into Newsmax for the real news they can trust.
What if getting older didn't mean living with joint discomfort, brain fog, or low energy? Qualia Senolytic is the only all-in-one clinically tested formula with 9 ingredients designed to help your body clear aging cells. Taken just 2 days a month, this regimen works at the cellular level to rejuvenate energy and support longevity, helping you stay active and energized. With Qualia Senolytic, life truly gets better with age. Start today at qualialife.com/BOGO.
Under Outfit is engineered for maximum comfort and support, but what does it feel like? How does it fit? Support? Under Outfit, so comfortable and soft, it's like we designed our bras to be forgotten. Try them at home for 180 days, also available at Nordstrom.com. Under Outfit, engineered for happiness.
I'm Eric, and I'm a pilot. When I'm congested, I can't breathe, I can't sleep, but I can't tell my passengers I can't fly today. That's why I Navage. I've tried nasal sprays, but with Navage, I have the power to remove congestion fast by flushing out germs, mucus, bacteria, and viruses through powered suction in like 30 seconds. I can see the results. I can feel the results.
This cold season, get #1 doctor-recommended Navage, available online and in store.
Just when you think it can't get any worse, the Somali fraud scheme keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Nick Sorter uncovering that 40 daycare centers in Columbus, Ohio, opened up using the same Somali shell company on the same day, collecting $14 million total in subsidies in 2024 alone. And the best part, one of the spokesmen for Ohio Governor Mike DeWine came out and said, oh, they're not seeing any sort of surge in fraud. And, quote, this is something that is unfortunately the cost of doing business. But take it out of your paycheck, Mike. Millions in fraud is not the cost of doing business, not with our tax dollars. Mehek Cooke visited one of those Ohio daycare centers, and take a look at this.
What? You gotta go. You gotta go. Okay, I'm just asking. You can't push. Whoa. Okay.
They just literally pushed me out. Like, that's insane. And they literally asked if I'm recording and then pushed me.
If they pushed you, you should have called the police.
Okay, that's a good idea. I should call the police.
Okay, thank you so much. Happy New Year.
PSA, don't push an attorney. Mehek Cooke, attorney and CEO of American Frontier Strategies, and Tudor Dixon, host of the Tudor Dixon podcast. All right, Mehek, so you were there and they push you. What now?
Look, Carl, this wasn't just the first daycare that assaulted me. There were 2 back-to-back on the same day. I asked for tuition rates and if they were open and if they could just provide that to me. And I was immediately met with a visceral reaction. We weren't recording in the beginning of that video. I actually wish that everybody could witness what happened initially. I walked in and with 2 hands, this lady grabs my arm and pushes me out. And then my friend Thomas Hearn recorded it because I figured, if I'm going to be assaulted, this better be on camera because you cannot touch a citizen for asking where our taxpayer dollars are going. Now, Columbus Police Department has issued a report we're going to go through, but unfortunately, we have a feckless mayor here and a feckless prosecutor that's not going to do anything. But the minute you put your hands on somebody for asking just normal questions, it raises a red flag. What are they hiding? And why are they putting their hands on somebody like me who's just a taxpayer in Columbus, Ohio, asking basic questions about funding and how much they charge?
Right, but Tudor, you're over in Michigan, where the mayor of Dearborn has said multiple times, once we have it on video, that he wants to get rid of white people. Watch this.
You are a bigot, and you are a racist, and you are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
He was saying that to an almost lifelong resident, and that guy just won in a landslide again, Tudor.
Now, imagine any time a mayor looks at a citizen of his city and says, I will throw a parade the day that you're out of here. I mean, certainly it is a scare tactic. It's to make people feel uncomfortable. But when we look at the amount of fraud that you're talking about, I mean, and the fact that you brought up that comment of this is the cost of doing business, we not only have a fraud problem, but we have a politician problem. People want to be politicians, not leaders. That's a political answer. We need someone who's actually going to dig into this and say, we will not accept. There is no cost of doing business when it comes to the American taxpayer.
Yeah, well, the cost of doing business, they're doing it on our tab. And these politicians, they always get paid. Like when they shut down the government during COVID, they still got their paychecks. But, you know, what do we know? The other thing, too, Mehek, in Minnesota, Mayor Jacob Fry, okay, has a trip planned to Somalia on his 2026 bucket list. Watch this.
I would very much like to visit Somalia. This has been something that I would like to do for quite a long time, but to be there with my friends, to be there together.
Hopefully it doesn't take a Black Hawk.
Look, Carl, ask yourself one question. Who are these people really working for? When you're worried more about Somalians, and we know that there's massive fraud, alleged fraud in the state, what are they doing in terms of asking for visiting Somalia? Shouldn't this mayor be joining the 100 mayors that actually asked for an audit and asked for additional inspections through the federal government? You had over 99 to 100 mayors in Minnesota saying, audit us and we need your help. But this guy is going to, again, grandstand. And we should really look at election records at this point to see how much money these Somalian daycares and home health centers and anywhere else that there's alleged fraud is actually giving this mayor. But it shows that the Democrat Party as a whole is more about foreign governments rather than American citizens.
I wouldn't eat any of that food they were putting in front of his face either. Cam Higbie, another one, no relation, obviously, brought these records to light from Washington State that roughly 80%, Tudor, of all publicly disclosed Washington campaign donations made in 2025 by people with the word child care listed as their occupation went from Somalia. I mean, they went to the Port of Seattle Commissioner Hamad Mohammed. I mean, you can't make this up. Look, here are the receipts.
It is. This to me is the real fraud that we need to uncover. Not only are our American taxpayer dollars going to foreign countries, but they are going to control our own country. That to me is what is so scary that people aren't pointing out. These aren't the Democrats of our grandparents' generation. These aren't even the Democrats of our parents' generation. These are socialists and they're communists. And we look at what just happened in New York City. This is the changing of the country. They want to take us from a capitalist country to a communist country. It's happening right under our noses, and they're using our money to do it. That's the shocking part about it.
And also, you've got Scott Pressler out there, Mehek, in 2008, found that more than 500,000 voters, nearly 19% of all voters in Minnesota in 2008, registered on Election Day. On Election Day.
Look, I think, again, same-day registration means that identity and residency checks are often minimal. You're going to trust now and then verify later. And Hermeet Dillon at the DOJ is actually asking for voter rolls. What do they have to hide if there's no fraud here? The fact that one person can vouch for 8 individuals to vote, I mean, that's just insane to me. So they need to turn over those records because Hermeet is serious. She wants to see if there's fraud occurring.
Yeah, no, she's the one gangster over at the DOJ that I'm really liking what she's doing. So, Mehek, Tudor, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the people who lied to us, covered it up, and then told us not to worry about Biden's declining health are now concerned about somebody who's not tripping all over the place, and that's Trump's health. Yeah, right. Okay, we got that in our Culture Clash next.
Bob Hope's comedic genius entertained fans for nearly 80 years through TV, movies, and countless live performances in front of active duty military men and women. Newsmax TV will keep you laughing with a look back at his legendary career.
I'm Steve Sarkisian, head football coach at the University of Texas. Energy, blood pressure, it all starts with cardiovascular health. Human delivers championship-level science to fuel circulation for performance and everyday impact. Born from UT research, backing more than 20 national championships, and for anyone looking to raise their game, even if they don't play one. This isn't just about our athletes. This is for all of us. Cardiovascular health is everything health.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Affordable dentures and implants just got even more affordable. We're partnering with over 30 insurance providers nationwide, helping you save more while getting the care you need. We make quality care accessible, so you can restore your smile and feel like yourself again. Affordable dentures and implants. That's what we do. Schedule your consultation at affordabledentures.com or call 1-800-DENTURE today.
Look, great blue heron. You know, when I go, I'd like to leave some money to the local bird conservancy.
Doesn't count. What you need is a will, something you can sign and make official. Start your will at trustandwill.com now and make it count. Trust and Will.
Hey guys, Viagra is not your only option. Rose Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Connect with a provider at ro.co/sparks.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Where's my mother gonna... Oh, no. Is this the episode with the breakup?
Reba, we can't agree on the house.
Y'all need Realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today. This could be it. Better put a key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The two big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs in weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
All right, so we talked about yesterday how CBS News was like finally apparently waking up to the fact that they were part of the lying legacy media. And now Catherine Heritage has come out and says, well, she was there. They actually denied an Elon Musk interview when she got the opportunity.
This opportunity to interview Elon Musk was developing. So I went to the CBS executives and I said, this is the opportunity that we have. He's saying, I want to do it live and on my platform. He's one of the most influential human beings on the planet. And the reaction from the executives was, well, we can't do it live. And I was like, what do you mean we can't do it live? I was like, well, we don't know what he's going to say. I felt so ashamed, frankly, that I never went back to Elon Musk and said, listen, they want to do it, but they've set all these conditions on it. I couldn't do that. This is someone whose DNA is free speech.
I would have told him that so he could have put it on blast. I would have forwarded him the emails too. I mean, you want to censor somebody on a giant network like that? Sarah Selip, principal of 917 Strategies, and Bill Whittle, political commentator. Bill, I mean, I would have just told Elon so he could have gone nuts.
Well, Elon Musk is, despite what AOC says, he's not as dumb as a box of hammers. I suspect that Elon Musk was perfectly well aware of what happened on the 60 Minutes interview when CBS decided to keep all of that in-house, and they started editing answers that didn't belong to the questions. The reason Elon Musk wanted to do it on his own platform was so that they couldn't do the kind of malicious, outright lying that they do every time they appear on these network programs.
Yeah, no, 100%. But Sarah, today, the CBS Evening News now, they're promising to live by five new principles when it kicks off Monday. Principles being, we work for you, we report the world as it is, we respect you, we love America, and we respect tradition. I was like, this is such bull. It's just fake.
You know, I love Barry Weiss more than most people, right? But those 5 principles kind of make me a little participation trophy-esque. That's the best way I can say it. Like, look under your chair. There is a car to go along with this.
Yeah.
So I guess more than anything, working in PR, working in comms, the Elon Musk thing is so disappointing, especially when you way back machine it to the Biden administration, the Super Bowl interview, and how many parameters did Democrats have to set for Kamala Harris and Biden last term just so they could make it through an interview and it actually air?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, look, they prop those people up the whole time. But this is more fake news, Bill. The party that lied to us about 4 years about Joe Biden's declining health, to Sarah's point, and then admitted to doing so. Now Jake Tapper is suddenly concerned over what isn't being told about Trump's health. Just watch this.
Well, I'm mostly concerned that the public really hasn't been told essentially anything meaningful about the president's health here. So let's turn the clock back and look what's gone on over the last 9 months.
Yeah, I'm sure Trump's health is really good when he's running 18 hours a day.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Carl. I'm not the person who first said this, but it's really true. You just can't hate these people enough, honestly. They just never end. If I was able to maintain Donald Trump's schedule, I would consider myself to be ready for a marathon. The way to judge Donald Trump's health is the activity of the president. We recall, of course, during the Biden administration that Joe Biden basically stayed in his basement, eating ice cream cones, was trotted out once every year or so in front of the cameras for some softball interviews. Donald Trump is traveling around the world making deals. He's doing all kinds of things on the domestic front. He's holding, it seems like he's holding 3 or 4 press conferences a day, and to come out and to throw this kind of shade on his health as sort of a warning to the American people, when in point of fact the biggest fraud perpetuated on the American people was the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline over the course of 4 years when an auto pen was the president. Yeah,
I want to go into the filibuster here. So, Sarah, I mentioned this earlier, but John Thune doesn't want to do away with this. I said earlier that I think this is the one thing that is keeping the Republicans from actually doing stuff, and they actually want that.
Yeah, I actually am on the other side of the script with that. I think that the filibuster is the one thing keeping Congress or the Senate from becoming the wild, wild west, right? No matter what would happen, regardless of who is in charge, if the filibuster is completely gone, the party in power will be able to do whatever they want. Like, imagine the Democrats times 40. We need to see President Trump's agenda pass through the finish line, and there's no question about that. Thune and McConnell need to see the writing on the wall. They need to go with the party's future, but the filibuster probably is not that.
I think, and Bill, they're just not listening at this point. Like, I don't know what it's going to take other than for us not to show up at the polls. But I said earlier, hey, go to your HR department and stop all your federal withholdings, put it aside, pay it if we don't get pardoned in 2027, but don't give them an interest-free loan anymore.
No, absolutely right. And, when you have an election where you win the House, the Senate, and the presidency, you are guaranteed 2 years to get things done. Traditionally and historically, the House flips after the halfway through the president's first term. That's usually the pattern. So you better be acting like your house is on fire. As far as the filibuster goes, pretty much everything I know about the filibuster, I know from Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And I suppose what it really comes down to is, what is it exactly that we're filibustering? That particular tradition is obviously not enshrined in the Constitution, but it's there for a reason. And we've watched the Democrats destroy all of these gentlemen's agreements that have kept this country pretty much well-oiled in terms of civility. And I completely agree. It's not a problem so much with the filibuster as it is with people who have an R after their names, who are determined to block this president's agenda and the will of the American people at every opportunity they possess.
I'm getting real close to being done with civility, I'll tell you that. Well,
Bill, me too.
Sarah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Iran continues to spiral out of control as frustrated citizens take to the streets like they did, 50 years ago. But now President Trump is taking notice. In a sec.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, build me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slowmag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slowmag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slowmag.
Hi, I'm Ben Cozy. Isn't traveling a pain in the neck? You're cramped, uncomfortable, and forget about getting any rest. There's nothing cozy about airplane seats or hard plastic benches, and those so-called travel pillows, they just don't cut it. You don't need another travel pillow. You need Be Cozy, the world's most comfortable neck pillow. Trapped in the middle seat? Wrap Be Cozy around your neck to stop chin drop, bobblehead napping. Smashed up against the window? Fold Be Cozy over and tuck it onto your shoulder for super side support. Frequent flyer miles got you sitting aisle? Turn Be Cozy to the side for the perfect pillow position. Everyone wants to be cozy, so get the world's most comfortable travel neck pillow and be cozy just like me, Ben Cozy. You get to be cozy. Everyone gets a Be Cozy. Only Be Cozy has patented overlapping arms so you get double support and the comfort you need in any seat on any trip. Go online right now and get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Be Cozy, get one 50% off. Get yours now.
Set sail toward fast asthma relief with Breathora.
$300 for a refill?
Don't pay that. Use Single Care. Look up your prescription, show the coupon to the pharmacist, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
It all started in 2022 when the Biden administration weaponized the U.S. dollar and imposed sanctions upon Russia. Central banks around the globe moved out of dollar-denominated assets and into gold. Jamie Dimon said gold could easily go to $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce. Gold recently surpassed its inflation-adjusted all-time high. Silver's inflation-adjusted all-time high is $209 an ounce.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide, home of the No Fee for Life IRA. See how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Let's take a walk down memory lane. In the 70s, Iran was a model of progressive modernization and women bikinis with very similar America, style movement with the post-Vietnam hippie folks. Now, women's rights, secular reforms, economic development, it was all going on in Iran, okay? By 1978, massive protests erupted, though, due to government corruption and authoritarianism, uniting a broad coalition against the Shah. The exiled cleric Ayatollah Khomeini, if you remember him, he's the guy now, emerging as like the unifying symbol. Where have we heard that before? Okay. Now, he promised justice, good-paying jobs, equality, and an end to tyranny. Now, progressives, socialists, and communists, they enthusiastically supported and aided in this revolution to put him in charge. In February of 1979, the monarchies collapsed. They handed the Ayatollah the reins, but once in power, Khomeini swiftly established the Islamic Republic, consolidating authority and turned against the hippies and progressives who helped him gain power. By the early 80s, he orchestrated mass executions and imprisonments of thousands and thousands of leftists, even the moderates and the progressives, who are now protesting him because he didn't deliver on what he said he was going to do, and now he viewed him as threats because he wanted this Islamist state. He executed as many as 30 to 40,000 of them. But this is all funny because Iran is now seeing a similar revolution against the hardline Islamic rule that they revolted to install 50 years ago. And now people in the streets are getting gunned down. Their economy is in the toilet with 50% inflation, and it turns out people don't like their leaders being the #1 state sponsor of terror in the world. Can they overthrow it, though? And can, for the love of God, hipsters in Brooklyn, please watch this unfold before going back to vote for Mamdani again. Christian Whiton is a Newsmax contributor and senior fellow at the Center for the National Interest and director of the American Military Project, Thibeau. So, Will, it's like we can look all over the world at examples of history, and we just keep doing it again here in America. But could this be a turning point?
You pray that it's legitimate and that this is the turn towards something positive and fruitful in Iran, Carl, but I think it's important not to view what's happening now and what's happening really at any time in the Middle East in a vacuum, right? We heard in June that the strikes against Iran were meant to destroy their nuclear regime so we could be done with military intervention for good. Essentially, we nip the threat in the bud then, and we'd be done indefinitely.
Yeah.
We see what's happening on the streets in Tehran. We hope it's good. We hope it's genuine and that it is a sign of a permanent change to come that benefits American interests in the region. But as you highlighted, that same movement in the 70s didn't necessarily portend good things for America for the subsequent 5 decades. So let's be patient and let's see what's coming.
Christian, I mean, I welcome unrest and total anarchy in Iran. I think that's probably the best thing for destabilizing any type of power that doesn't like America. Christian?
Well, no, I think actually a stable republic that embraces secularism, even if they don't call it that. What I mean by that is the separation of mosque and state.
Well, in a
that seems
perfect
to be
world,
what these people are after. They're not looking for some reformed monarchy or something like that. And a country like that could actually become a U.S. ally, as Iran was before 1979, and abandon its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. Certainly, I would be willing to roll the dice and end up with almost any government would be better than the one you have now.
Yeah, no, 100%. But, the other thing, too, Will, is that, Trump is addressing protests earlier this morning. He says if Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Look, Trump ran on no new wars. I'm not so wild about going to Iran. I kind of just want to let it play out.
I tend to agree with you, Carl. When I was in the military, I think you'd understand this. Every mission we went on, whether it was a barbecue or HVI raid, every mission had an end state.
Yeah.
What was the world that we wanted to usher in by accomplishing this mission? Not what would happen 24 hours after we left the target, but how would the actions that we took portend to something that was good for America?
Yeah.
I imagine President Trump has that in mind, but what I think the American people want to understand is what the end state is for Iran.
I want to let Christian get the last word here.
Sure. Well, that policy was tried by President Obama and Joe Biden. Both of them sat on their hands while the Iranian government crushed uprisings just like this. I would go back to 1948 in Italy. It was clear Italy was deciding in its first democratic elections whether it would be part of the West or whether it would slide behind the Iron Curtain into the Soviet bloc. We didn't just sit around and say, let the best man win and democracy will prevail if it should prevail. We knew that the predecessor of the KGB was stacking the deck for the communists, and so we got involved. The CIA, which was then 1 year old, bags of cash, support, moral support. We can do those types of things, or we can just actually help the dissidents with communications. As we have a C-130 that's bristling with radio and TV antennas. We could put it off the coast of Iran and let these people speak to the Iranian people themselves, free of censorship from the regime. There are things we can do that actually don't involve bombing Iran or going to war, or things like that. Political warfare that we used to be good at, we should try again.
Yeah, I kind of want to stay out of basically everywhere until we fix America. But all opinions valid. Christian, well, we appreciate it. All right, coming up, Zor, let me be clear. I really enjoyed my time at war. I was really good at it, but I just don't want to do it right now. Coming up, Zorhan Mamdani's inauguration block party leaves loyal fans super PO'd and shivering in the cold. Did they just get their first taste of communism? Maybe.
My body is my livelihood. Staying active, a good diet, and the right supplements, that is essential as a fighter. So I take it serious. It all starts with the right fuel. Balance of nature just makes sense. Whole fruit and vegetable ingredients, simple. I am CP the champ. Balance of nature fits perfectly into my routine. It's basically a no-brainer.
Lock in 50% off for 1 year. During the Omaha Steaks end of season event, save 50% site-wide and get our Butcher's Classic assortment with USDA certified tender filet mignon and top sirloin fillets for just $99.99. Plus, get 8 burgers free. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports and your day becomes better and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and you know, it's a good life. I'm Randy and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Don't let hackers start the new year with your money. Cyber criminals are targeting your savings and identity and your personal information. Respond with Guardio. Guardio is a security tool that stops fake sites in real time, flags malicious emails, and blocks phishing links, helping you outsmart modern threats and stay in control of your online security. Run a free scan to see if your information is already exposed by going to Guardio.com now.
What does Under Outfit feel like? So comfortable and soft, it's like we designed our bras to be forgotten. Try them at home for 180 days, also available at Nordstrom.com. Under Outfit, engineered for happiness.
This is the story of the one. The one knows that when the big game is days away, the unexpected can put everything on the line. But with a solid game plan and a teammate like Grainger that she can rely on to deliver the product she needs when she needs it, she's confident that she will always win the day. And her team will do the same. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What if getting older didn't mean living with joint discomfort, brain fog, or low energy? Qualia Senolytic is the only all-in-one clinically tested formula with 9 ingredients designed to help your body clear aging cells. Taken just 2 days a month, this regimen works at the cellular level to rejuvenate energy and support longevity, helping you stay active and energized. With Qualia Senolytic, life truly gets better with age. Start today at qualialife.com/TV.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Rather not. Yeah, I'm just a friendly reminder, this has been tried before, and how that ended up. Collectivism equals communism. Individualism equals freedoms. Now, if you recall, Herbert Hoover in 1928 gave that famed speech of, quote, American system of rugged individualism at Madison Square Garden. He said, we're all challenged with a peacetime choice between American system of rugged individualism and European philosophy of diametrically opposed doctrines of paternal and state socialism. And it was actually Soviet leader Gorbachev who said, as one of the many socialists out there, that says socialism means more democracy, openness, and collectivism in everyday life. But again, New York, you get what you vote for. Democrat socialist Zoran Mamdani has been sworn in as the New York City mayor and already got a taste of how collectivism really works. He had around 10,000 supporters that stood outside City Hall yesterday. It was freezing cold, and they anticipated some bash he promised in the name of his inauguration for this block party. But those supporters were left super disappointed. They were crammed into tiny little areas with barricades, no bathrooms, no food, no concession stands, nothing. Welcome to socialism, baby. Editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter, Matt Foldi, and political commentator April Silverman. Matt, told you so.
24 hours into Mamdani's reign of terror, and New York City is Animal Farm. They're throwing out block parties. By the way, a communist block party sounds like one of the least enjoyable things ever. But they're throwing block parties out, and they're bringing in the bread lines. So not only is that, by the way, not only is that what's going on, he's bringing in Al-Qaeda's defense lawyer. His wife is wearing $680, I think, boots. So you're seeing that all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. And as you said, Carl, we know how this movie plays out.
Yeah, you got to be more equaler to be up on that stage. But April, look, you actually did this fantastic breakdown on your Instagram about the entire cost of her outfits. This is insane. These are supposed to be socialist, people of the people. But look, run through what she was wearing here.
So it's unbelievable, honestly, because they want collectivism, but she's wearing Balenciaga in that outfit. That's about $2,500. It's a 70-year-old coat that cost her more money to rent versus purchasing it right now, vintage. So
Whoa.
they tell everyone, they tell everyone that it's cheaper for her to rent, and they use keywords like vintage and on loan and things like that. So you think it's free, right? Nothing is free. It costs money. You have to rent it. You have to dry clean it. You have to ship it back from LA to New York, both ways, insurance, all these items. The boots the following day were double the price, and no one's talking about that. They're $1,200 the next day. And styling fees, hair and makeup. Who is paying for all of this? All the alteration bills. And his tie was custom made by an Indian designer, and nobody's talking about this. And there's little flowers on the tie, and it's supposed to be a nod to LaGuardia, the mayor, the first Democrat socialist in New York City. So there's a lot of symbolism going on. They know exactly what they're doing. And these kids, these Gen Zers traded, gender studies for social studies. And this is what we're, left with. They don't know what
Matt,
they voted for.
I consider myself a very fashionable human being. I'm wearing Duluth pants. I bought this tie on Amazon like 6 or 8 years ago. And this jacket is a whopping $230, and the tailoring was another $200. Matt?
I think you look way better, by the way, than the communist mayor. And I want to say, while we're doing outfit breakdowns, I have my boots that Jeff loved mocking while I was in England. The BBC crowd was not a fan of those. And I'm wearing Taco Bell Hollister jeans. I think I'm a little bit also more fashionable than the communist mayor of New York City. And look, at the end of the day, by the way, I guess I was wrong. April's right, that the boots are double what I thought they were. The point here, it's not even necessarily just the hypocrisy. It is the hierarchy for the left. It is Mrs. Mamdani telling the New York City voters that I am better than you. You are concerned about affordability. That's why you elected my communist jihadist husband. This was a gaslighting to end all gaslighting. You can see the priorities that we were talking about is ushering in an era of Islamism into New York City because the rent is too high. Meanwhile, she's wearing boots that are like 2 weeks' rent for most people in New York City.
April, I got less than a minute
left. By the way, my
here.
boots way cheaper.
Yeah, April, I got less than a minute left here. But remember the Nazi salute that everybody freaked out? It wasn't a Nazi salute. It was Elon Musk just saying, "My heart goes out to you." Well, Mamdani did the same exact thing. Same exact thing, silent.
Where's the outrage? It's been way over 24 hours. Nobody said anything. But the left continues to backpedal and justify and gaslight. They're like, no, what Mamdani did is exactly what Elon Musk tried to, explain away and pretend like he was doing. He was actually doing a Nazi salute. So they still believe that. Zoran Mamdani can do no wrong. He can leave you without a bathroom, no food, no running water at his party that we're supposed to be, celebrating the people that voted for him, the useful idiots. And they fall for everything, sadly. So they may vote for him again.
Yeah, and, they charged $8 a beer at his inauguration.
Carl, I will say one thing.
Matt, I got to leave it right there.
I'm
out of time.
Segment.
I got to go.
All
right.
We'll talk next week.
Matt, April,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. All right, before we go, just when you thought the Somali stuff couldn't get any crazier, I got one more thing for you next.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
A better heart health supplement
That's what we all want. That's why for 8 years now, I've relied on this heart powder. It's Super Beets, and I swear by it.
Super Beets is the original #1 selling beet brand for healthy blood pressure support. The only cardiologist-recommended beet brand that's also trusted by over 40 national championship-winning pro and college sports teams for cardio-powered energy.
For cardio results you can feel, the only brand I trust is Super Beets.
Find out how to get a free month with your first order at livehuman.com.
Poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galina. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
Affordable dentures and implants just got even more affordable.
I saw you strolling down the lane.
Schedule your free consultation at affordabledentures.com or call 1-800-DENTURE today.
So a Somali TikToker is now coming under quite a bit of fire after releasing this video about Elon Musk.
Let's go for it. Well, I wouldn't worry too much about this one. I wouldn't worry too much about him. He about to die.
Was that clicking? I mean, clearly, yeah. The threat to Elon replied to, he said, then it's war. I'm on your side, Elon. And this response is seen like millions of times. Look, he isn't wrong. This Somali stuff is so out of control that even you have the Somali embassy into Serbia now demanding libs of TikTok call off the dog, sending a DM that said, quote, here, stop laying. Stop laying about Somalia. Not lying. They went to the city of Leering in Minneapolis. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, now it all makes sense.
IQ of 67.
They can't spell. They went to learning centers, not learning centers, and now they can't. Was that how did they talk? What was that? Clicking noises?
That was.
All right. It is out of control, isn't it, Carl?
Yeah, man.
My God. All right. Hey, man, you have a great weekend.
You too, dude.